Hey Bookends! Today's book review is going to be on A Love-Hate Thing by Whitney Grandison. Full disclosure, this review is based on an ARC copy received for free via NetGalley for the purpose of review. So jumping right on in, we like to start every review with a star point, as in out of 10 stars, how many stars does this book honor? And a rating, as in if this was a movie or a TV show, what would it be rated? So stars wise, this book is a 7 out of 10 stars. It rated pretty high. There were some things that detracted from it, but it ultimately rated pretty high. And for a, actually, you know what, not even a 7, we're gonna go for 8 because only 2 things that really made it go down. So this is an 8 out of 10 stars. And for a rating, I would say PG-13. There is some cursing in it, but the language isn't heavy, and well, at some points it can be. So I'll say PG-13. If this was a movie, I don't think it gets to the level of an R though. PG-13, but with a lot of parental guidance advised. So jumping right on in, the book starts off with a young man by the name of Tyson Trice. He's being sent up to the burbs because he was shot in the hood. He prefers to go by Trice, and he acts really hard, but I can understand why. He grew up in a tough area, and brother man was shot. He goes to live with a family who his grandfather used to do lawn work for, which is kind of interesting. You know, that dude who used to mow our lawn, his grandkid got shot. Maybe we should move him in. So that was kind of a novel concept, because it wasn't like he was a close family friend or anything like that. I'm going to speak about later why I think that might have happened. But yeah, he moves in with a black family who's in a suburban area. But I believe it's like white collar, not blue collar. Like these people rich. Like they dumb rich. Like they're rich. And I think they're in California too. So like good money rich. Like not East Coast rich, like good money rich. When he gets there, he meets a girl who used to be a friend of his by the name of Nandy. And Nandy is like, Ma, why you moving a convict into the house? Technically he's not a convict, but I can understand where she's coming from, because like y'all don't really know this dude. And people generally get shot for a reason. Like it wasn't a stray bullet, it was a bullet meant for him. Like the bullet didn't bounce and hit him, like it was for him. But yeah, dude got fresh aired out there. Well, I don't know if you ever heard of the fresh air program, but it's something that they have in inner cities. I know they still have it in my city. I don't know if they have it everywhere, but basically they take little inner city kids and like, look at all these beautiful houses and trees and wild animals. You too could one day aspire to live here, if you don't kill yourself with drugs or join a gang. Or yeah, I don't do drugs and I haven't joined a gang, and I still don't live in those type of areas. I'm still poor, so whatever. Anyway, getting back to the story. Nandy has some good points. She's like, why are you moving this dude into our house? But her parents like, no, we need to be helpful and gracious and all those other wonderful things that we should be. Here's why I think that they did this. It doesn't say it in the book, but this is why I personally think they would do this, because there are some people who are like this. It's kind of like a survivor's remorse type of thing. Like sometimes I feel like black people who have gotten out of the hood and have generationally been away from the hood, like maybe second, third, fourth generations, and they're still away from the hood, they sometimes feel as though, you know, they look back and think, oh, that could have been me, or oh, that could have been my kids, and they feel some kind of a burden on them to try to fix it, which I guess is nice. If we don't have to feel burdened, you know, if their parents had the money or saved up the money to move them away, or if their great grandparents saved up the money to move their grandparents away, what have you. There's no need, in my personal opinion, to feel survivor's remorse for those of us whose great grandparents and parents don't have and didn't have and probably will never have the money to move away to another area. So I get that it's survivor's remorse, but they don't really need to have it. We're cool. Thanks though. But anyway, So, yeah. Nandy has a boyfriend. I forgot his name, but he's white, and that plays somewhat of a part in it. Not really racial, but so Nandy has like this perfect persona. She's like doing this debutante thing. She's great at school. She's into class politics, which is interesting because I've never seen someone who was cool and into class politics. Anyway, so she's kind of a do-it-all type of a kid. And she's with the perfect boyfriend who's the captain of the lacrosse team, who has the perfect mother. And so she's expected to behave in a certain way. Her perfect boyfriend has friends who openly do drugs at parties. And not like, you know, like little drugs, like not weed, like for real drugs, like cocaine, Xan, like for real drugs. And these are all high school students. So it's an interesting thing in the book that Nandy kind of judges Trice from coming from an area where drugs are kind of king and being around people who are drug dealers and drug addicts, when in actuality she's dating a dude who has her around rich people who are drug dealers and drug addicts, but she sees it differently. I think the reason why she sees it differently is money and color. That's why I said the color of her boyfriend kind of plays into it a little bit. Seeing her boyfriend and his friends do drugs and drink and things of that nature doesn't affect her as much as the idea of Trice being involved with people who have done drugs and sold drugs and things. I think it's because her boyfriend is rich, he's affluent, and her boyfriend doesn't look like the hood people who would do those sort of things. Her boyfriend's just experimenting because that's what young people do. But the black people in the hood, that's just their life. That's not an experiment. That's just every day. It's any given Wednesday. So she has a lot of internalized racism within her. Her parents don't. Her parents kind of see like we're all the same. And her little brother who's adopted, he's Taiwanese. But I think he's lived with them since he was 2 months or 2 years old, something like that. He doesn't seem to have any internalized racism, but I believe in that sort of area where he is, there are a lot of adopted children. So it's not as though he's the elephant in the room or the unicorn in the field or anything like that. But I think her parents have a better grip on how race works in the world and how being born in certain areas leaves you several steps behind someone who's born in another area. Not because of intelligence or because of lack of stick-to-itiveness, but because literally it leaves you steps behind. Like if being born in the hood, first you have to get out of the hood. Like first you have to get out. And in order to get out, you have to get the funds. In order to get the funds, you have to get the education. And most of us don't have college funds just sitting around. So you gotta get a scholarship. And there's not a lot of scholarships going around. So you have to get FAFSA, financial aid. And what a lot of people don't know is the financial aid you get is based upon your parents' income. So everyone just imagines like, oh, everybody just gets a percentage of whatever their, however much it costs them to go to school. They just get a percentage of it, but no. Give you a good example. My parents have 4 kids. I'm the youngest of 4 kids. When I went to go to school, my dad, you know, did all the paperwork and stuff. He was told, or I should say we were both told, I could not have financial aid because there were 3 human beings ahead of me that were paying loans that were in my dad's name. So me at 18, I could not have a student loan. I was denied. I was told, no, that can't happen, not for you. And so what my father ended up having to do was, he still sent me to school because he's my dad. He still sent me to school. What he ended up having to do was pay money every 2 weeks to the school for me to be able to take classes. And I think he paid somewhere between $350 and $550 every 2 weeks for me to be able to take the classes. That didn't include, you know, transportation because it was out in Jersey City. It didn't include books. It didn't include food, you know. So these are the steps behind that someone who's born in the hood has to face as opposed to someone who's born in a more affluent area and they have trust funds or college funds set aside or financial aid works a little bit differently for them. Their parents are able to pay off each child before the next child goes to school or what have you. So Nandy's parents understood that Trice was basically born behind the 8 ball, and that all he was trying to do, even with the drugs and stuff like that, all he was trying to do was get ahead of it. That's it. He wasn't trying to be better than anyone. He was just trying to get ahead of it. In fact, he even stated he didn't even think he was going to go to college. He's like, I need to finish high school because I know that I won't have certain opportunities if I don't. And that's literally how a lot of people in the hood feel. Like, we don't even think towards college because we don't feel like we're going to be able to afford it. Like, no lie, it is what it is. People are like, oh, black people don't go to college, or oh, only a certain amount of kids in this high school went to college. But why is that? The reason why is because we literally legit cannot afford it. There are only so many scholarships to go around. It just is. I remember when I was in high school, our guidance counselor was even telling us, have your grandparents adopt you. If you have your grandparents adopt you, then that means that you'll get a scholarship because of this. Did your grandpa fight in the war? Great. It don't matter your grandpa did. You'll get a scholarship because he was in the war. It was a lot of like loopholes that black people have to go through. I wouldn't say black people, because a lot of us live in the hood, but there's a lot of things that people who live in the hood have to go through. A lot of hurdles we have to go through to get to the same level as other people. Not above them, just at the same level as they are. So Nandy is a bit of a jerk to Trice. I understand why she is, though, but she's a bit of a jerk to Trice. And Trice, he's respectful. Speaking of lovely parents who pay bills, that was my mom calling about a package. But yeah, so Trice is for the most part respectful, but he's kind of like a fish out of water. And it's a romance. So of course these two kind of grow towards each other. There is sex in the book, but it's not explicit. Because keep in mind, these are both teenagers. There are certain scenes in it that you can skip over, but they're not explicit. It just kind of says, you know, he touched her leg or something to that effect. But I liked how it played out because he wouldn't touch her and wouldn't let him, he wouldn't touch her and wouldn't really let her touch him until she said that she loved him. Trice said that he loved her first, and he wouldn't allow her to touch him until she said it back to him. Also, it's interesting how it is Nandy had to act, or how she did act to fit in with the people that she was around. There was some kind of debutante thing that was happening, and so her mother asked her, like, oh, do you want pasta for dinner or something? She's like, nope, only fruit and vegetables for the next week because I need to look my best for this. And all I could think is, dude, you living off of fruits and vegetables? Like, just fruits and vegetables? Like, not being a vegan, not having any proteins, not having any nuts or beans or anything for protein, like just fruits and vegetables. That's it. So you can fit in with these people. It didn't seem healthy. It also didn't really seem healthy that her mother was okay with it. Her mother didn't make a big deal out of it. I don't know if that's because her mother was used to that kind of living or what have you, but yeah. What detracted from this story was it started off with cursing. And I understand why it did. He had been shot. I didn't like all the cursing in it. I also didn't like the love triangle, because you know I hate love triangles. I understand she had a boyfriend. I understand Trice was there, but you can let one person go before starting with a new one. Like, there doesn't have to be a love triangle. So those are two things that brought it down to an 8. What I really did appreciate about this book was that even though Trice was from the hood, I am so happy. You just don't even know. I'm so happy that Whitney Grandison did not give him a black scent to differentiate him from everyone else in the book. He did not have a black accent. Of course, he had certain euphemisms. He used certain euphemisms, I should say, that are commonly found in hood areas, because that's natural. It would be a part of his speech. But he didn't sound like he had a 3rd grade education. He sounded like he was just a regular person. He didn't sound like he was a professor in college. He also didn't sound like he was the world's tallest 8-year-old. He sounded like a regular person. So I really did appreciate that. I also appreciate that Nandy wasn't explicitly whitewashed. Now, she's a black girl. She's living in kind of a multicultural but mostly white area. But she hasn't completely lost her identity. It's just that she feels the need to pattern herself. Not be these people, but pattern herself after these people in order for her to achieve what it is she's looking for personally. It wasn't as though... I enjoyed that race wasn't a part of this. It wasn't a big thing about race. Like, why are you hanging out with N-words? And it wasn't a big thing about race. I love that, because when it comes to other cultures, like something that has, let's just say, a Jewish protagonist doesn't always lead back to Holocaust. Something that has a Japanese protagonist doesn't always lead back to World War II. So something with an African American protagonist shouldn't always lead back to racism. And I'm so happy that this book did not. It's a really good read. And yeah, it comes out in January 2020, so keep an eye out for that. This has been a 10-minute book review. And guys, if you like what you see, please like and subscribe. Bye, Bookends.